Timothy Pickering was a politician from Massachusetts who served in a variety of roles, most notably as the third United States Secretary of State, serving in that office from 1795 to 1800 under Presidents George Washington and John Adams. Pickering had previously served in the Massachusetts Militia and Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War. He is often remembered for his Anglophile attitudes, and pushed for pro-British policies during his political career. Pickering famously describing the country as the world's last hope, Britain's fast-anchored isle, during the Napoleonic Wars. He later became involved with the Hartford Convention, and along with many other Federalists opposed the War of 1812. Early life. Pickering was born in Salem, Massachusetts to Deacon Timothy and Mary Wingate Pickering. He was one of 9 children and the younger brother of John Pickering, who would eventually serve as Speaker of the Massachusetts House of Representatives. He attended grammar school in Salem and graduated from Harvard University in 1763. Salem minister William Bentley noted on Pickering, "From his youth his townsmen proclaim in him assuming, turbulent, and headstrong." After graduating from Harvard, Pickering returned to Salem where he began working for John Higginson, the town clerk and Essex County Register of Deeds. Pickering was admitted to the Massachusetts bar in 1768 and, in 1774, he succeeded Higginson as Register of Deeds. Soon after, he was elected to represent Salem in the Massachusetts General Court and served as a justice in the Essex County Court of Common Pleas. On April 8, 1776, he married Rebecca White of Salem. In January 1766, Pickering was commissioned a lieutenant in the Essex County Militia. He was promoted to captain 3 years later. In 1769, he published his ideas on drilling soldiers in the Essex Gazette. These were published in 1775 as An Easy Plan for a Militia. The manual was used as the Continental Army drill book until replaced by Baron von Steuben's Regulations for the Order and Discipline of the Troops of the United States American Revolutionary War. Salem incident. In February 1775, men under Pickering's command were involved in a bloodless confrontation with a detachment of British regulars under Alexander Leslie, who had been dispatched from Boston to search Salem for contraband artillery. 2 months later, Pickering's troops marched to take part in the Battle of Lexington and Concord, but arrived too late to play a major role. They then became part of the New England Army assembling outside Boston to lay siege to the city. Adjutant General in December 1776, he led a well-drilled regiment of the Essex County Militia to New York, where General George Washington took notice and offered Pickering the position of Adjutant General of the Continental Army in 1777. In this capacity he oversaw the building of the Great Chain, which was forged at the Sterling Iron Works. The chain blocked the Royal Navy from proceeding up the Hudson River past West Point and protected that important fort from attack for the duration of the conflict. He was widely praised for his work in supplying the troops during the remainder of the conflict. In August 1780, the Continental Congress elected Pickering Quartermaster General. Rise to power. After the end of the American Revolution, Pickering made several failed attempts at financial success. In 1783, he embarked on a mercantile partnership with Samuel Hodgdon that failed 2 years later. In 1786, he moved to the Wyoming Valley in Pennsylvania, where he assumed a series of offices at the head of Luzerne County. When he attempted to settle a controversy generated by John Armstrong with Connecticut settlers living in the area, Pickering was captured and held hostage for 19 days. In 1787, he was part of the Pennsylvania Convention held to consider ratification of the United States Constitution. After the first of Pickering's 2 successful attempts to make money speculating in Pennsylvania frontier land, President Washington appointed him commissioner to the Iroquois Indians, and Pickering represented the United States in the negotiation of the Treaty of Canandaigua with the Iroquois in 1794. Cabinet member. Washington brought Pickering into the government as Postmaster General in 1791. He remained in Washington's cabinet and then that of John Adams for 9 years, serving as Postmaster General until 1795. Secretary of War for a brief time in 1795, then Secretary of State from 1795 to 1800. As Secretary of State he is most remembered for his strong Federalist Party attachments to British causes, even willingness to wage war with France in service of these causes during the Adams administration. In 1799 Pickering hired Joseph Denny as his private secretary. Middle years. After a quarrel with President John Adams over Adams's plan to make peace with France, Pickering was dismissed from office in May 1800. In 1802, Pickering and a band of Federalists, agitated at the lack of support for Federalists, attempted to gain support for the secession of New England from the Jeffersonian United States. The irony of a Federalist moving against the national government was not lost among his dissenters. He was named to the United States Senate as a senator from Massachusetts in 1803 as a member of the Federalist Party. Pickering opposed the American seizure and annexation of Spanish West Florida in 1810, which he believed was both unconstitutional and an act of aggression against a friendly power. Near the end of his only term as a senator, Pickering was charged with reading confidential documents in an open Senate session before an injunction of secrecy had been removed. In response to that charge, the Senate censured Pickering by a majority vote of 20-7 on January 2, 1811. Pickering was later elected to the United States House of Representatives in the 1812 election, where he remained until 1817. His congressional career is best remembered for his leadership of the New England secession movement. He was elected a Fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in 1815. Later years and legacy. After Pickering was denied re-election in 1816, he retired to Salem, where he lived as a farmer until his death in 1829, aged 83. In 1942, a United States Liberty ship named the SS Timothy Pickering was launched. She was lost off Sicily in 1943. Until the 1990s, Pickering's ancestral home, the circa 1651 Pickering House, was the oldest house in the United States to be owned by the same family continually.